to do is give you permission for you to be you.
Oh my goodness.
When you know who you are, you'll know what to do.
That's amazing.
This moment, you've been waiting for this your whole life.
Oh my goodness, I wish I was in the same room because I just want to hug you.
You can't fix a problem using the same thinking that created it. And by the way, beautiful, you didn't do anything wrong.
Thank you.
Your show is not a show, it's an experience.
What do you do, Stephen?
I'm a universal courier that's been sent to answer your doubt.
Thank you.
What the heck is happening right now?
And it's happening live.
My life's about the gift I've been given to make you the gift that you are.
Ready cameras, studio standby.
Video is ready for live.
If I enter your life, it will change. Start investing in the world called your dreams. Hey everyone, how you doing? My first message to all of you, if you're going to try something new, then just go all in, all at once, and give it your all. There's a new studio set up in here, multiple cameras, all those types of things, and we've tested it a few times. We know that it works, but we're doing all of this live, which is really, really cool. So my first point to you, go all in. And as I said on my post yesterday, perfection is fear and fancy dress. Do your best and then polish up the rest, which is what we're going to be doing throughout this show. Very much a Q&A, bunch of questions I haven't seen, some that I have. But let's get to the very first thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is this whole concept of your story seduction. And it's the whole concept of how do you actually build story frames to build stories. So in the first section of this atonement cycle, we've talked about fostering over the last 4 weeks, fostering forgiveness, trusting self to let go, confidence to give, embracing your light. And then today is a concept of what I call your story seduction. And go with me on that because it's going to deep dive into some really cool training in here. Your story seduction. Have you accepted the greatest asset of influence and relatability is in your story? Your story needs to seduce you. It needs to tempt you. And as if by telling it, you surrender to yourself and all of the stories that defines your vulnerability. So I use the word seduction intentionally, even though that can be misleading for some, but it literally needs to seduce and tempt you. It's really critical. So how do you build stories using a thing called story frames? And there's 3 elements to every single story. First element is the concept of your story of struggle, the concept of your story of success, and then the concept of your story of switch. So every single story has a story of struggle, success, and switch. And in the the Brilliance Pre-Ignition course inside the BU Academy, I talk about all of the different frameworks that you need, right down to an assessment. Getting some feedback on this thing, right down to the story frames assessment that I provide you in relation to how do you actually tell a story, how do you build one, and there's an assessment tool that helps you to do that. There's videos, podcasts, transcripts, guide sheets, and templates all the way through with templates and assessments inside that element and that course inside the Academy. But let's go back to what these 3 elements are: struggle, success, and switch. And inside each one of those is 3 separate elements, all the same, but in relation to your struggle, your switch, and your success. So what is your story? What is the stat? And what is the share? So your story is what is the context, it's the background. Your stats is what is the details, what are the specifics, and the share is what is the impact, what is the realization. So my story, for example, my story of switch, which is that transformational moment, not the story of how successful I may have been or what struggles I've had, but what was that switch where you went from success to struggle or struggle to success? What was the story, stat, and share? There was a time when I asked myself, what's next? What's ahead of me? The stat, the details, I was 35, it was 98. I was reading Bill Gates' book, The Road Ahead, how he and the internet would make me redundant at age 45, 10 years further. So the share was, so I packed up my life, packed up my career, and I went to London on one premise. I was really good with people. How could I possibly fail? So the end result is my story, the positioning was, there was a time when I asked myself, what's next? What's ahead of me? The actual details of 35, 1998, reading Bill Gates' book, The Road Ahead, and how in 10 years' time his systems and the internet combined would make me redundant. So the impact was, I packed up my life and packed up my career, but the impact statement was, I went to London because I was really good with people, and how could I possibly fail, even if I packed my life and my career up? So in summary, I asked myself, what's next? I was 35 and 98, and I was really good with people. How could I possibly fail? Building story frames. Now, in the business of life, personally, you can use this in your marriage, your relationships, your children, your hobbies, your interest groups, your communities. How powerful would it be for you to be able to share a positioning in your relationship, the details, and then the impact of that relationship in your life, for example? In the business of life professionally, it's applicable in meetings and presentations, sales pitches, job searches, interviews, videos, and podcasts that you create. The ability for you to be so succinct, as I go back, to be able to be that succinct that you could actually say to someone in the opening of a video, there was a time in my life where I asked what's next and what's ahead. I was 35, it was 98, and I knew that I was good with people. Boom. How powerful would that be with partners and colleagues, associates, networking, online introductions, social platforms? So, top 3 tips. Top tip number 1, tell quickly about the success and the struggle. No one wants to know about how great you are. No one wants to know how much you've struggled. So, but they do want to know the bookends of that. So tell them very quickly, this was my success, this was my struggle. Teach in detail in that transformational moment, that switch moment where the lights went on from when I went from success to failure. I went from struggle back to success. Teach, because everyone wants to know, what did you do in that really transformational, difficult time? No one wants to know how great you are. No one wants to know how hard your life is, because they've got their own challenges, but they do want to know what happened in that switch moment. And then lastly, quick story, details in the stat, but spend time in the share. So in that third element of your success, struggle, and switch, tell a quick story, detail in the stat, but spend time in the share. And if you go back to my opening, my summary here, you'll notice that the longest sentence is actually in the share. Very short story, very short stat, details in the share. So that's part of the whole concept of how do you use story frames to actually build stories for all of the uses that you can use them in the context of how we'll do what we do. Now, part of the reason you're seeing me in this layout today is one of the things that I'm going to be doing over the next period of time is, pardon me, a thing called the BU Academy. It's the BU Academy show. I think I've got the details here. What I've done is I've broken down all of my courses. The 16 courses I've got, there's about 300 videos, and I'm going to break them down and actually have this style of show. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I get up and move around. I'm going to use here to actually inspire you to think, to give you confidence, give you belief, and then come over here and moving into this studio arrangement. What I'm going to do is come here and on the whiteboard, actually start going in, got a funny throat today, on the whiteboard, start going into the details of what we will do. So over here in next week's shows, both Inspiring Insights and the BU Academy show, we're going to sit and we're going to inspire you to think, build your confidence. And then rather than just leave you then sitting there going, now what do I do, Steve? We're then going to come over here and go into the detail and bring it onto the whiteboard and start having conversations about what are the steps you can take based on the inspiration you've got from over there. So that's what we're going to do. For today, though, one of the things that I wanted to do is I've had a lot of questions asked of me for quite a while now. So one of the things that I wanted to do today was just do a Q&A. There are some of these questions I've seen, many I haven't. So let's start. And this is Rukia from the United Emirates. She's asking, my question to you, Steve, in the process of being a giver, how do you ensure that you also give to yourself? Okay, let's dig down on that for a second. when you've got the concept of the word give, to give to someone else is usually to be generous and have some level of gratitude with them as well. I did see this question, so I just of transparency, I didn't know this. One of the things you're also trying to do, you're trying to provide some level of influence. The best way to do that is to have some level of value. And you're trying to use the three that I talk about. You're trying to enlighten people. You're trying to educate people. And you're trying to make it enjoyable when you're sharing what you're sharing. So to give to someone is to be generous with gratitude, to influence them, to offer value, and to enlighten them, to educate them. Might be a good idea if I put this on there, wouldn't it? Hang on just a sec. See, everyone, I told you this is new, so we're just working it out as we go. So if you want to, going back to the question at hand, and let me look at the question. Where is the question? Yeah, so the question at hand was, in the process of being a giver, how do you ensure that you give to someone else or you give to yourself? And that's a really cool question. So to give to someone, you've got to be generous with gratitude, with influence, value. You've got to enlighten them in some way, educate them in some way, and make it enjoyable while you're doing it. But that's for them. Would you agree with me that for you to be generous and have gratitude towards someone else, it's a good idea that you have some level of grace to yourself, some level of kindness to yourself. If you're going to be an influence to someone, would it be fair to say that you need to do some level of informing to yourself so you can validate that person believing that you provide value to them? Too often people are trying to give without understanding what's the grace and kindness position to me, how informed am I to be able to influence that person or people, how do I validate my value to them, and then how am I, guess what, enlightening myself, educating myself, and enjoying myself as I give to me as well. Now, an easy answer would be to talk about, well, you've got to actually be generous to people and you've got to do this and no. You've got to have gratitude, influence, value. You've got to enlighten, educate, and have people enjoy your company, enjoy your content. But one of the things that you really also need to do, you've got to have grace to allow yourself to have that. You've got to be informed yourself. What does informed mean? What are you consuming to educate yourself so you can be of value to someone, so you can enlighten and educate them? Because that enlightenment, education, and the enjoyment to yourself is what will provide you with the ability for them to be received from you. Too many people are trying to give, and they're trying to give without ever stopping and being present in the foundation of giving to themselves. Now, because I need to clean the whiteboard, what I don't want to do is see you me cleaning the whiteboard. I'm going to drop into some of the Desadie vaults from the season 1, and while I clean the board, you can do this. If you want to stand out, teach people to stop loathing who they are, grow within themselves, and love what they find in the mirror every morning. If you be an example of that, there's not an algorithm in the world that can keep up with you.
Oh my goodness.
Boom. What's next on our little list here? I need to go back to there, put me up there. Oh no, we're on that one, which is cool. What was the next one that I got? Yeah, I hope you can read this one. About 8 months ago, Craig, if I get this pronunciation right, Welchinek, I hope that's right, Craig. Craig came on the show and he posted into before he came on the show, what questions to his network. And he got a whole pile of questions that I never got a chance to answer. So I'm going to do that today, which is cool. Let me remove that one just for today. This is a question from Chris Miller, and she said, I think I would ask, if possible, how can I encourage happy and satisfied clients to share their testimonials about my company online? Good question. So how can I get people to share their testimonials online, which is the question at hand? Okay. For those of you that do a lot of stuff with me, you'll understand the whole concept of testimonial versus impact statement. A testimonial is about you. An impact statement is about them. If you look on, if you look at the recommendations on my LinkedIn profile, for example, I was thinking that Why Hire Me page is not actually live right now on my website. But if you think of the concept of when you ask someone for a testimonial, can you tell me how good I am? And it's not that people are particularly disliking that. And if you go back to what I said earlier about story of struggle, story of success, story of switch, and you think of that whole concept of here's my struggle in my story. No one really wants to know your struggles. Here's my successes. No one really wants to know about that. But here's my switch. Everyone wants to know about that. What happened for you to go from that bankruptcy to where you are now, in my case? What happened for you to have stumbled so badly, financially, emotionally, that divorce that devastated you, and now years later, look how well you've done? How did you get through that business that failed? People don't want to know that you ran a multi-million-dollar business. They don't want to know how you struggled to get it started. But when you had some type of stumble, when you went through that growth spurt and you questioned whether you should do it, what was that moment of switch? What was your mentality? What was your thought? So go with me on this for a second. If you ask someone for a testimonial, you're asking them to describe how successful they've been in your life. But if you ask someone, can you give me an impact statement about what was some of the foundational things, what were some of the things that happened in my life, my business, my career, when I was impacted by you? And Kelly, one of the best questions to ask is go to 2 or 3 of your most loyal returning customers, clients, guests, as I call them in Desadie land, and ask this question: what is my impact on your humanity? And humanity is the quality of you being human. Let me just come on screen and say that to you again. What is the impact of me on your humanity? Defining humanity as the quality of you being human. What's the quality of you being human because of some of the stuff you've done with me, whether I've enlightened you, whether I've educated you, whether you've just enjoyed being around me? The biggest thing to do to get people to give you some type of recognition is to get them to recognize the impact you had on them that enabled them to switch and go again, that enabled them to move and go forward. So many times when people say very kind things to me, those kind things are based on what's happening in that moment. I was speaking to a lady yesterday who's in America, who's doing some has got some medical journey on her plate at the moment. And she very humbly said to me, Steve, there was moments when I was in the hospital going through what I was going through, and I was thinking about you, thinking about anchoring into your strength, your passion. And she's a lady of faith. There's a lady right now, bless you, Katja. There's a lady right now who's been struggling through COVID in the Netherlands. She was sending me photographs from her hospital yesterday, just to the view out the room, because my impact on her is giving her confidence and assurance. So Kelly, the best way is get rid of the concept of testimonials and start focusing on the context of what impact did I have on you personally or your business in that moment of switch, in that moment of uncertainty. What happened? Another gentleman over on the west coast of Australia has been going through some change in business, coming out of corporate, thinking about setting his own business up, did some of that, then also has gone into another job. One of the things he tells about me was the impact I had on just giving him some presence of mind, some confidence, and just knowing that I was there. Kelly, what impact do people have because of you in their moments of switch? It's probably the best one to look for. I'm off to clean the board. So the first thing you need to be aware of is who are the people in your life that are talking into your life? Are they contributors to your journey, or are they just trying to make themselves make you fit into theirs by making you small? I'm going to go, because my good friend Ash Playstead, what has Ash said to me here? I have a question that comes with a lot of my clients in coaching and how they struggle to navigate change and uncertainty in these unprecedented times. I'm interested in your take on this. Okay, unprecedented times. Let's look at it this way. Where is my little sheet of things here? Let's do it this way. Thanks for the question, Ash. I really appreciate it. Unprecedented times is basically, what's one word for it? Change. What's the first stage of change? Awareness. So from my point of view, you have a certain focus on the journey of life, what I call the business of life. And in the BU Academy show that's coming next week, you'll see a lot of me talking about the business of life personally and professionally. So let's just say that it's obviously uncertain times. We all know that's COVID, pre-COVID and things. And even there was other things. There's been other impacts that create change in this world, but COVID has been one that's been quite profound for all the reasons we know. So you have a certain focus, and that focus could be a set of targets, given the type of people that Ash coaches in the world that he deals with. So you may have a certain target, you may have a certain quota, you may have a certain level of financial commitments that you need to meet, and therefore your quota and target. Bang. Okay. So you've got a certain level of focus. The first stage of change is awareness. The first stage of uncertainty is losing sight on why you started. So in the context of uncertain times, the very first thing you need to do is twofold. Number one, anchor in, has this focus changed at all? So in terms of your intention, has that changed at all? Very first thing you need to do. In this period of change, there's a sense of awareness to my targets, quotas, my intention, that end state. The second thing you need to look at is, what are the obstacles that are now in my path? Lockdowns, home working, and all the other types of things that COVID's introduced, and many others. So the very first thing you need to look at, Ash, is what is the your level of internal awareness of the change that's happened to your intention, irrespective of the external. And what happens is you put a management plan around your intentions. You may need to refocus them. You may need to do some changes to targets. If you're running a bricks and mortar business where people are coming through the door, I know the local cafe around the corner and the girls are really kind to me. I know, for example, their sit-down business has gone through the floor because of all the lockdown here in Sydney. So the very first thing you need to do with change is become aware. The first stage of change is awareness. What was your original internal intention based on targets, quota, and your finances in the context of Ash's world? The second thing you need to do is external. And guess what? Put a management plan around the externals. What has changed that may impact your target quota? And the third thing is actually have a revised business plan, which is based on your intention, based on the awareness of the change, of why you started in the first place, and some of the obstacles of these new ways of working, for example. And some of that obstacles of new ways of working are going to be in IQ and EQ related. So the very first thing you do is anchor into your intention. The second thing you do, and become aware of that. The second thing you do is anchor into the awareness of the obstacles have come. And then the marriage of those two forms a new way of working. And some of that new way of working is going to be in the IQ. Some of that's going to be in the really cool stuff you do around mindset, Ash, which is in relation to EQ. So I hope that helps. Hello, Judy, and hello, Ramona. I appreciate you stopping by. So I hope that helps, Ash. It's a very, very simple summary. The very first stage of change is awareness. Awareness to where you're intending to go, and awareness of the obstacles that are in your way. Because every journey in life, whether it's business of life, the personal aspects of life, consist of obstacles and intentions. And when change comes, become aware of both. I've got to clean the board again. The same thinking that created a problem cannot be used to resolve it. And when you keep using the same thinking for the same problem, you create the endless cycle of negative repetition. This program is proudly sponsored by Windex. For some reason, this new board just doesn't clean off like the old one does. I don't know why, but anyway. Big problems in life, big problems, as you can see. Big challenges, big problems. Okay. What's the next one that we've got? Peta Ann, what a beautiful lady. Peta Ann. A question on my mind right now is, how do I begin to fully believe that you're worthy, valued, have a voice, and can make a difference? Knowing that for yourself and owning what others may see in you that you don't see in yourself. Okay, I hadn't seen this one. And Petra, even though you sent it through and I thanked you for it, these were being compiled for me. So some of these I haven't seen. So this is brand new. So let's break this down. Worthy, value, have a voice, and can make a difference. Okay, well, let's go back to that whole thing about what I said before, which I just came from in terms of Ash. What is your intention? Too often we stop and think, oh, is this going to work? What's my value? All those types of things. And the classic example today, and you can see that I'm still playing around with trying to understand how to get all of this to work. I'm using a keyboard to control a laptop that's over there and other few little fun things. So the very first thing you need to do is that intention needs to become into three things. What do people say about you? And remember what I said, I'm going to tie a couple of things back because it works for this. What impact are you having on people? People say, and sorry if this sounds a little bit Stevie for a sec, but it's the best way of me doing it because I don't understand all of the details of Petra's business, even though I love her posts. One of the things people say about me is this, and they've encouraged me to actually create a show called Inspiring Insights and do things live. One of the things people say is just about how personable it is, how easy it is on video, and how quickly I can do this. So guess what? I set up a studio whilst locked down here in Sydney and created whiteboards and all those types of things. So number one, what do people say about the impact of you? And spend less time in your mind trying to work out what it is. People said to me, a gentleman in Miami in Florida, had won an Oscar, won an Emmy, and he said, Steve, you should go on Instagram and do one-to-ones in front of many. No one's going to believe that you can answer questions so quickly like this. So I created Inspiring Insights. No one knows that I have an academy of all of these classes. So I've now created the ability for me to literally, and I'm staying with your question, Petra. Let me hang on just a sec. See, I'm learning as I go. So, for example, I'm learning a way now that people have said it's quite natural when I'm with people doing one-to-ones on whiteboards, people compliment me on that. So my first point to you is, what are people saying about what you do? What are people saying about what you do? So in my case, they're saying that it's quite personable. So I've created an environment where you can see behind the scenes. You can see me walking around. So what impact do you have on people? That impact, Petra, is going to come in three ways. What you do for them, what they get from you, and how enlightened, educated, and enjoyable they find it. They're the only things you need to worry about because you're worthy. Let's go back to your question for a second. I bet you I hit the wrong one. No, I did. I got it right. Yay. You said worthy, value, have a voice, and make a difference. Would you agree with me that if you asked yourself, what do I do for them? What do they get from me? And do I enlighten them, educate them, and make it enjoyable? Would you agree with me that if you were doing that, you've already covered whether you're offering worthy value and you have a voice that can make a difference? Because if you have already put yourself in that's a better one. If you've already put yourself in a position of what do I do for them? What do they get from me? And do I enlighten their soul, educate their mind, and make it enjoyable and put a smile on their dial? You've already hit your worthy value and you have a voice. The second thing you need to do over here, outside of what do they say about you, relentless. Absolutely relentless. Just be relentless. Why? Because you know this is true. You just need to find more people to do it with. You know this is true. You just need to engage more people to do it with. You know that you can enlighten, educate, and make people enjoyable. Be relentless about what your impact on other people is. And stop asking yourself, do I have value? Am I worthy? Am I worthy for a lady to be sending me photographs who's having infusions on the other side of the world? Am I worthy to be sending her 16-year-old son encouraging videos
because I want him to be supporting his mother, and I want him to know that someone on the other side of the world who's an older man is proud of him. Am I worthy to do that? I don't know. I don't stop and ask myself if I'm worthy. Might be a good idea if you can see me. That'd be a good idea. I don't ask myself if I'm worthy, Petter Ann. I'm too busy just doing relentlessly what people say I do for them. So my number one advice to you is, what is it that you're doing for people? What is it that you're helping them with? What is it that they're saying about the impact of you? Now, if your impact with some people, or people's impact with you is that they just don't get it, and some people have said, oh, Steve, you lack authenticity and all these types of things, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to like everyone. To me, life's like a buffet at a really nice restaurant. You don't have to eat everything. You pick and choose what you like. So I listened to everyone. So when the people said that lacking authenticity, I was, well, what's that actually mean? I want to know. I want to understand that as decent feedback. But under no circumstances do I question my value or my worthiness, because I'm too busy doing and reflecting on what people are asking of me on a regular basis. Hope that helps, Petter Ann. This was another one from Craig. You can see it's from 8 months ago. And part of the reason I put these in there, I had these put in there for me, is I wanted people to understand that eight months ago, we were in the beginning of well, 8 months ago was November when Craig was on the show. So these questions are evergreen. That's the other thing to notice. Which parts, go back to this point for you as well, Ash, and Petter Ann, which parts of what are you doing are evergreen? Which parts of it? Because this question from a lady called Jean Nickerson. Hello, Jean. Tell me about a customer experience that fundamentally shifted your approach to business. I think I've actually been explaining that for the last couple of minutes. It goes back to, I know this sounds like I'm stuck on this today, but it goes back to impact. It just goes back to impact. I constantly am asking myself, what's the impact I'm having on people? I don't ask for testimonials, and I'm kind of surmising this to do this quickly for this particular question. I was writing, I make a lot of videos. There was a lot of transcriptions gets done. Some of you have know this story. One of the ladies who does the transcriptions had a baby and he passed away, and it had a huge impact on me because this little baby in the first 159 days of his life just wanted to eat, and he was born without a stomach, and he eventually passed away. What I saw, even though that was not a Dasadie guest aspect, it was someone inside the Dasadie team, what I saw was the instinctual, intuitive behavior of a child who didn't have a stomach that just wanted to eat. That had an impact on me. So years later, when Matthew from Florida said, Steve, just hold your phone up and do one-to-ones in front of many, because someone had asked him, how did you get your mojo back, Matthew, after a couple of challenges? And he said, I've been working with a guy in Sydney. Oh, what does he do? He goes, I can't explain it. You just need to experience it. So what I did is I looked at what is, and this is probably the answer to the question for you. What is the common characteristic that links consistently to the impact of what you do for people? Because the common characteristic of mine, it makes sense, even though I'm very blessed by it, that Judy would mention what she said yesterday about her health journey, what Katja would do in terms of photographs, how Michelle's dropping notes to me, just letting know how she's going through her COVID journey at the time. The common element of impact is people just wanting some emotional support and assurance from me. So the best answer to your question, if I get it back up here, tell me about one customer experience that fundamentally shifted your approach. Jean, the best way of me answering that is I looked at what was the most common things that happened to me. What was the most common characteristic of the impact I have on people, and I hunkered down on that. And everything I do now is based on that, right down to having multiple studios and doing all of this live stuff, not doing a whole lot of recorded stuff anymore. I think I've lost track of which one's which, but here we go. So thanks for your question, Jane. Stop thinking your life is about you. Stop thinking about why you should or shouldn't do what you're gifted to do. Stop thinking about whether you feel as if you've got a calling, and just be committed to it. Why? Because stop thinking your life is about you. Because there's enough people out there that are queued up on these, my life is all about me. Like me, follow me, share with me, comment on me. Tell me what I haven't got the guts to tell myself. I'm okay. I do like that one. Have the guts to tell yourself I'm okay. And just to finish off on Jean's, because I didn't know that one was going to come in that sequence. Jean, when you look at the common characteristics of the impact you're having on all of your different customers, as a collective, you'll understand what the characteristics of your brand, the intention of your brand, the intention of your narrative, and what I call the narrative of your humanity, which I can't do right now. Renee was on the show a few weeks ago. What a beautiful lady. We all get told to drill down on and into our niches. Do you agree, or have any other tactics and strategies and advice? Okay. I know a little bit about this question because I sent a note off to Renee. I know she's in New Zealand. She's got a partner there and she's not been able to see him for a couple of years because of all the COVID business. So she's down there at the moment, and I got to see inside of his big, huge truck because he's a truck driver. And I sent her a note just to say hi, and she actually rang me back and I was able to take the call. It was lovely to speak with her. So I'm not betraying any trust or confidence in what I'm about to say. Renee, let me do this. Renee, so we're talking about niches. And what I want to talk about is EQ and IQ niches. EQ and IQ niching. Go with me for a second on this. In the context of Renee, and this is all said with great respect, and she speaks openly and publicly about this. She's been on the show and talked about it, so I'm not betraying or disrespecting any trusts here. Renee was subject to childhood sexual abuse. Unfortunately, breaks my heart to say that, but that was her situation. So when you drill down, and she was around 10 years of age, and it probably may have lasted longer than that. Don't want to speak any further about it. But her niche, in the context of how we're often told to do this, is childhood abuse 10 years, when she was 10 years old. So in her promotion, in her packaging, in her presentation of her brand, she's basically saying, are you a child that had some type of sexual abuse in your young life? Because if you are, I can help you. And that to me is what I call IQ niching. Another individual might be someone who's a dog trainer. I know a guy called Frank Kern did I think it was dog washing or dog training, and he's become a very big online guy. Many of you know who he is. But you might be someone who does dog training. You might be someone who does trading, even though Ash is actually doing a version of this if you're still watching Ash. You might be someone who has, in the context of their intellectual ability, a very structured niche that you can drill down to. I am a dog trainer and I train people in dogs. I am a dog washer, and I'm just thinking of the Frank Kern thing because he made a huge amount of money out of this first launch. I might be a web designer. I might be a dog trainer. I might be a web designer. I might be someone who does trading and I provide trading advice for people. Fine. But if you think of if you go up, take the helicopter up, it's a thing called chunking up that I do inside of my speaking program. Let's chunk up, because abuse for a child 10 years old in the home is very specific, and we're chunking down. But if I chunked up and said abuse is some type of trauma, abuse is some type of unbelievable neglect. I feel uncomfortable talking about this out of respect, Renee. Trauma, neglect. Abuse is some type of disconnection. How many people have some type of trauma in their life? How many people have some type of neglect in their life? How many people are feeling disconnected, basically with the COVID thing is one issue. As soon as you start emotionally chunking up based on what your area of expertise is, you do have an ability to start expanding your engagement. So this level is high engagement. Because everyone has some trauma, everyone has some neglect, everyone has some type of disconnect in their life. And guess what? And this is what I said to Renee, because I do know this question. I was aware of this question. When you say if you came to someone and say, oh, look, I understand you've had some really big trauma in your life and I'd like to help and coach you, they might turn around and go, well, what would you know? Bang. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. No, No need to be sorry, but I appreciate it. I understand the concept of trauma, neglect, and feeling a sense of disconnection as a 10-year-old child. And I've dedicated my life to understanding how to help people. So this now becomes your foundation. This becomes your high level of agreement and high level of relatability. So you'll often hear me, and it will start coming more and more next week, where I'm talking about lessons in the business of life. Because if you want to talk about how to do speaking and how to do branding, if you want to talk about how to do videos, if you want to talk about how to do one-to-one, one-to-many, one-to-pitch, if you want to talk about story frames, I can do that. But I can do that in the context of the business of life personally in your marriage and your relationships, and in the business of life personally standing in front of 300, 400, 500 people. So one of the things you want to do, and this is an interesting one, and I'll go back to Ash, who does do this. Ash actually helps people with trading. Hope I don't get this wrong, Ash. But he also does a huge amount of stuff around mindset because of this whole volatile thing. We all think of traders and everyone's making huge amounts of money. Their business is wavering up and down. So their EQ, IQ, sound wave is going crazy. And Ash is actually polishing their ability to trade well and their ability to deal with the highs and lows and all those types of things. I saw recently a lady on one of the groups that I'm in who's very successful at helping people with financial management. Women particularly. So she's helping women in business deal with financial management. Guess what financial management is? Let me go to this for a second. So she's helping people do financial management. So that's her whole, let me go with this for a second, everyone. So her foundation in the context of structure is financial management, bookkeeping and stuff, but even more than that from what I saw of what she does. She helps people understand how to get the books right, how to make the money right. Guess what that does? Gives you structure. Guess what that does? Gives you confidence. Guess what that does? Gives you options. So in her niche, even though it's the IQ of bookkeeping, financial management goes to structure. It gives you confidence, gives you options. I've got more money to play with now. So part of her coaching business is similar to Ash's. Up here, she's dealing with finance. Down here, she's dealing with the confidence to grow. And she coaches in financial management and the development of women. Cool? So really, really important. EQ, IQ niching. Is your IQ niche providing you with some type of foundational extended reach? Or are you just saying, I'm in trading and I help traders. I'm in dog washing and I help dog washers. I'm someone who has an academy and I teach people how to make videos. No one contacts me about how to make a video, but they sure as hell contacted me about the confidence for them to be them. Hence the reason it's called, and has been for years, the Be You Academy, your story and brand distinction, the story of your life and the distinction of your brand, both personally and professionally. Which one of these am I up to? If you get to watch one twice, is that going to be good? I think that'll be okay. Let me clean the board, everyone. Well, my mentor always says to me that most people have an awareness of knowledge they call intelligence. It's just an awareness of knowledge. Intelligence is your ability to express the relatability of your experience. The ability to create the relatability of your experience. If you think of everything we've spoken about during the course of this Q&A, it's been about impact, the awareness of change, the actual EQ, IQ relationship with your niche and foundational. All of it is your ability for you to express and make your experience relatable. Really, really, really important. What's next? Ooh. William, the one question I have would be, this is again from 8 months ago from Craig's post about what would you ask Steve if you were on his show? Why should business not ignore technological advancement in marketing? Why should business not? Let me read that one again. I haven't seen this one. Why should businesses not ignore technical advancements in marketing? Okay, let's do it this way. What is marketing? Here's one to think of. You're out wherever you go out in your early life, and you're single and you're open to meeting someone, guy, girl, whatever it might be, girl, guy, girl, all the different variations there is. Marketing is in your courtship days where you're presenting yourself. Marketing is your services and your product. Marketing is simply your profound statement of value. I only said this to some people yesterday on a call. So marketing is your profound statement of value. Here's what I talked about yesterday: online or offline. We're on a train. Don't get my jacket. We're on a train. Let's go with online, offline. Let's talk about marketing and profound statement of value. We're on a train. We're 100 kilometers outside of your city. We're on a train in the middle of nowhere going between one station and another. There's 100 people on the carriage. We're doing 100 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, whichever it is for you. And of the 100 people on the train, 96 are holding some mobile device connected to the internet. There's no cables. There's no landlines. Even for those of you who don't even know what a landline is. We're sitting on a train doing 100 Ks between two destinations, and we might be in the middle of the bush, the forest, wherever we might be. My question to you, everyone, are we online or offline as we're making and seeking? We're either making profound statements of value or we're receiving profound statements of value, or not, sadly. But in a train of 100 people, 100 kilometers outside of your city, 100 kilometers to the next nearest city, and we're all 96 of 100 people are holding a phone, are we online or offline? I propose to you that there's one reality in the world right now. Olympic athletes are coming off. The guy who won Degrassi, who I think good on him for finally winning his medal after all the years of watching Bolt run past him. The people in Australian swimmers, have obviously seen some of that because I'm Australian. They're coming to poolside and standing to a Zoom style setup, and they're being able to speak to their family in the moment. Are they online or offline? It's just one reality today. So should we ignore the advances in marketing? No. What you should do is focus on your profound statement of value in the way that you market yourself. How are you enlightening someone's soul? How are you educating someone's mind? How are you making it enjoyable to put a smile on their dial? How is your content enlightening, educating, and enjoyable in your profound statement of value, and in the one reality world that we exist in, which is technology blended? How are you doing that? I have no idea how all of these cameras, a laptop, two laptops, an iPad, and a phone are all connected to the internet, allowing me to drag and drop with one of these little things. I have no idea. You know why? You know why I don't care? It's not my gig. I care enough to know how to get it to work, but I'm too busy with my enlightenment, educating, and enjoyable presentation of profound statement of value to make you believe in you. To make you believe in you. So that was a really cool question. And I'm whiteboarding. Stop thinking your life is about you. So in those moments of, I'm not sure I should actually speak up, Steve, it's not about you, speak up. The fact that you actually think you can, do it. So speak up. Speak up with your profound statement of value. Speak up with your profound statement of value, and whether there's technology supporting it, because there will be, because good luck with trying to live in the world without technology today. A profound statement of value, really, really important. What are we doing for time? Oh, we're going okay. A few more. We can do a few more. Oops, that's the one we've just done. Richard Kelly, Dr. Richard Kelly. How cool is Dr. Richard Kelly? I met Richard 10 years ago at an event. He's an ER doctor. He's been, imagine this, everyone. He's been an emergency room physician for I don't know, 20 years or something. Could you imagine the stories that guy would have? Amazing. But but I also know he's been doing something on the side, which might be what his question is about. What would you tell someone who's trying to build a profitable, successful internet business, who has spent multiple years trying to make it happen? This is very applicable to everyone. What would you tell someone who's trying to build a profitable, successful internet business, who has spent multiple years trying to make it happen? That person may already be doing reasonably well with their day job, able to support themselves and possibly a family, but they're trying to create a successful online business. And regardless of the number of years they put in, it doesn't seem to be happening. Do you ever get to a point where you would advise them enough is enough? Typical Richard's deep and profound question. Where's my pen? Let's do it this way. First thing that comes to mind. I didn't know the detail of this question. It was, except for those of you who sent questions into me, the questions weren't actually screened by me. They were screened by others, because I like to be able to be doing this on the fly. The very first thing that comes into mind is an intention versus eventuality. I think that's eventuality. Hope so. Intention versus eventuality. So Richard's question was, I've got a successful kind of successful, I assume it's him or it may be someone else. The person in question, the third party we're referencing, if that's how we're doing it, have got a successful business. They've got a successful income, I should say. And they're trying to actually build a business on the side. What was your number one? What was your intention of why you started your online business? Was it to get to the end of the eventuality of replacing your existing income? So when your intention when you started, was it the eventuality of replacing your day job? Because one of the things we've got here, I want to run a business, but I have a day job. So the first thing you need to do, first stage of change, is awareness. You need to make a distinction. When I'm trying to run my business, the intention of why I started was the eventuality to replace it. Number one. Number two, when I'm finished, what does success look like? Because if your start and eventuality was replacing it, your finish in the intention of your new business. So this is running your new online business. Because the question at hand really is, I've been doing this for quite a few years, it's not working, when's enough enough? And there's a couple of ways to do that in terms of where we'll get to quickly on this. So when you started, was the intention of starting was the eventuality of replacing. When you finished, have you described in detail what success looks like? And the reason I ask that particular question is, when you know what success looks like, there is no quitting. If that's so focused, like for me, for example, I don't know how to do anything else. And I'm not going to do anything else. This is it. My start and attention was for me to make a difference in other people's lives for the rest of my life. And I would literally sacrifice everything to do it, because the price I pay is the prize that I seek. And that's the third thing. What price are you prepared to pay for the prize that you seek? Now you might think, Steve, why haven't you just given Richard the answer of stop or not stop? I'm giving him a framework to evaluate what he should or shouldn't do. Because assuming it's Richard, right? What is the price that you're prepared to pay for the intention of starting to get to that finish line of success? What is the price? Because whatever the price is, it's going to be the prize. Whatever the prize is, it's going to be the price. Oh, that sounds different. What the hell does that mean? If you want money, you got to give money. You want time, you got to give time. You want love, you got to walk across the room and say hi, hoping the person might say hi back, and eventually they might say, I love you back, if that's your thing. The price in life is always the prize. So Richard, rather than ask a decision about, is this a go, in this is project management terms, is this a go or no-go decision? You need to ask yourself, why did I start and what was the eventuality? Did I really start? Was I really intending that my finish line of success would be me walking out of the ER? Was that what I intended? Need to ask yourself that. Because because a lot of times people are running a business on the side, and if you said to them, well, get rid of your day job and go out and do this full time now. As soon as you ask that question of people, all of a sudden it's a different story. So this is too complex a question, so I'll just do a simple framework. If you want to make a decision about should I go or should I not go on the continual journey of my business, it's been years, what am I going to do? Why did you start and what was the eventuality? What were you trying to achieve? I started because this is the defining thing that I do in my life. My life is dedicated to me being me so I can help you, period. I don't know how to do anything else, and I pretty much don't want to. The finish of my success is having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children wanting to send me their high school graduation invitations, and I've never, ever met them. And my price and my prize is I'll invest all of my time and all of my money, and I'll sacrifice the pleasure, comforts, and entertainment until my eventuality is assured. Now, Richard, I could say to you, the easy question would be, you know what, mate, if you've been doing it for that long and you've got to, this person's been doing it for that long and you've got a well-paying gig, then don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. Enough's enough. You've done well. Bravo, valiant effort. See you later. Why did you start? What was the eventuality? What was the finish? What does success look like? Because if you know what success looks like, it'll make it really easy for you to say go or no go. And what's the price you're prepared to pay? Because if I told you to give up your day job and do this full time, would you? Up to you to answer the question. Up to you to answer the question. I have no idea which one of these I'm up to. If you want to stand out, teach people to stop loathing who they are, grow within themselves, and love what they find in the mirror every morning. If you be an example of that, there's not an algorithm in the world that can keep up with you.
Oh my goodness.
Oh. Okay, we've probably got one or two left, and I'll go some comments on the board. Well, this is interesting. 8 months ago, curious and excited to step into 2021. My question would be, what's next for 2021? So let's say 2022. Boy, oh boy, this is a hot potato of a question, isn't it? So let's do this really, really simply. Be aware of where you are right now. Why? Because awareness is the first stage of change. Inform yourself as much as you can, and be very choosy. Is that how you say choosy? It is now. Be very choosy. Hang on. Be very selective, because I can spell selective. Be very selective on what information, where you're getting it from. Make value-based decisions. Make value-based decisions on what you think a 2022 is going to look like. And number 3, ask yourself this question. For those people who are getting frustrated by the circumstances of being locked in or having to be prevented from moving around as we are here in Sydney, and obviously with Delta seeming to boom elsewhere in the world right now, how aware are you of what's going on? Because that's the first stage of change. Inform yourself of all of this change, but be selective on how you're getting it. Make value-based decisions. Make decisions based on value. And last one, what if? Overnight here in Australia, a 27-year-old gentleman was in the 13th day of quarantine after he was diagnosed, and he just started coughing, fainted, and passed away within 2 hours. God rest him. Tragic. What if? What would you miss? Before you start analysing how frustrated the restrictions might be in your part of the world, how annoying everything is because 2020 came along and 2021 is not as rapidly as improved as we are. What if? What would you miss? Ask yourself that question. Whilst you're aware of the change, inform about and being selective on what you're allowing to inform you of what's going on, because there's a lot of nonsense out there. Make value-based decisions, and then ask yourself this question. What would I miss in 5 years' time? In 5 years' time, would you actually look back and go, wow, that COVID thing was a complete pain, but at least I got to hang out with my kids a little bit more. It made me actually understand and evaluate what was important in my life. Easy to say, everyone, but here's the relatability. I live alone. I don't have a partner. I don't have family. And I live in this apartment, and this is the 8th week of lockdown, and I'm here by myself 99.9% of the time. And none of this is woe is me, because I'm aware of it. So what have I done? I've created extra studios. I inform myself by being very careful on what I consume. I make value-based decisions on the way that I'm creating the content I'm doing in the BU Academy, and picking out what is it that I've got and what would I miss. Because if COVID hadn't have come along, here's another question you can ask yourself. Ask yourself the question, have I learnt anything? Have I learnt anything? Stop worrying about what it's going to look like next year or when it's going to stop, and ask yourself, am I aware of the change? Am I informing myself with selective information? Am I making value-based decisions? What if, what would I miss? And question yourself, what did I actually learn? How did I get better? Instead of just bitching and whining about how bad everything is, because it's not going to change anytime soon. This COVID thing's going to be around for a while. So that's the best way that I can answer that for you. Laurie, what impacts us and how we impact others is connected. EQ widens the circle. It certainly does. Ahmed Yusuf. Now, there's a fantastic man I met a long time ago. Hello, my friend. How you doing? Thank you so much for being here. Tanish, I hope I've said that right, Tanish. Interesting. I'm glad you think it's interesting. That's really cool. So we're right on the hour, everyone. So what I might do, because I could go further, and we're going to continue with this style of show next week, because I've got so many questions. I think I've got about 30 of them. So there's a whole bunch of other questions that we do have. So before I wrap all of this up, just one thing that I did want to do, in the context of, we're always looking for guests on the show, so don't feel as if you can't be a guest. I just need to work out where there it is. Here's one. Let's just do this and then I'll come back and say goodbye.
Why is this show an experience?
And not just a show.
I can answer that with a question. How brave are you?
What happens
on this show?
You muster up your courage, any of you.
And you go live in front of the world.
And you ask a question of vulnerability that you struggle with.
You are given the awareness you need from the universe.
Ruth Stephen, of how you can handle the struggle.
Can you handle doing that? Can you?
Because this is your chance personally.
The courage you put into it
is equal to the value you get out of it.
Do you have what it takes
inside of you to change your life?
Only you can decide.
What is your struggle?
And how big is your courage to move through it?
You have no idea what this experience can do for you.
Stephen has a gift
that you can experience,
but only if you have the courage to go live.
Your life will contract and expand
based on your courage.
This could be your step to expand.
You can. We all did.
So for everyone who sent through their questions, I really appreciate it. We'll do this again next week in the Inspiring Insights show. But the other thing that we'll also do beginning next week is, which I'm really excited about, is the BU Academy live show. I'm still doing all the artwork for it, but I'll be going into actual lessons inside the Academy. And actually breaking them down and then coming over here. I better come over here because I'm not sure how to turn it off over there. And then I'll be coming over here onto the whiteboard and actually motivating you over there and inspiring you over there and motivating you with actual step-by-step actions. And I'll be doing flash lives as well. So I'll be coming on live. Here's my closing remark to you, everyone. What is it that people say that you're good at? What is it people say that impacts you by you doing that? And whatever it is, do it. And if you want to know what that looks like in my world, it is literally the ability for me to be able to walk around the studio, to feel live, to actually speak, be on a whiteboard, share screens, and for me to be so participative in your life, in the business of your life. So that's what we're going to be doing over the next indefinite period of time. For everyone who's been on the show, I really, really appreciate all the questions that came in. There's more questions that are coming next week. But until then, I'll see you on all the different social platforms. Be well and be brilliant, everyone, and take good care.
Start investing in the world called your dream.